Let go of your former self and become who you truly are. Jordan Peterson, Introduction. You? The weight you didn't know you're carrying, every one of us carries a shadow. A former self that clings to us not out of malice, but out of fear. The version of you that learned to survive in a world that demanded too much too soon. It's the self that adapted to rejection, built walls to avoid pain, and dimmed its own light to fit in. But here's the haunting truth. The person you had to become is not the person you were meant to be. Dr. Jordan Peterson often speaks about transformation, not as a comfortable journey, but as a necessary shedding of skin. Letting go of your former self is one of the most painful yet liberating acts of courage you'll ever face. And until you consciously release that outdated version of yourself, you'll keep reliving the same frustrations, attracting the same toxic relationships, and wondering why life feels so suffocating today. Let's embark on a journey of personal metamorphosis, not through empty motivational quotes, but through brutal honesty and practical tools that you can apply in your life starting now. Part 1. The prison of your past identity. One of the most common traps adults fall into is identity foreclosure, deciding too early who you are and clinging to that definition out of fear of the unknown. Perhaps you were once labeled the quiet one, the failure, or the people pleaser. Over time, these labels become internal scripts you unconsciously follow, even when they no longer serve you. Jordan Peterson describes this as being trapped in an invisible structure of order, an order that, while familiar, slowly becomes a prison. Many people continue behaviors and beliefs that were formed to survive a specific chapter of their lives, without realizing that those very patterns are now the chains holding them back. You see, transformation doesn't begin with adding more to your life. It begins with subtracting the need for external validation, subtracting the belief that you're not worthy unless you're perfect, subtracting the narrative that your past mistakes define you. But how do you start? The answer lies in radical self-confrontation. Part 2. Confronting the mirror. The power of honest reflection. One of the most terrifying exercises Jordan Peterson recommends is to sit alone in a quiet room. Stare at yourself in the mirror and ask, what am I pretending not to know about myself? It's a brutal practice, but also an enlightening one. Most people avoid deep self-reflection because it threatens their current identity. But without confronting your own lies, you remain a prisoner of your former self. Ask yourself, which habits am I clinging to out of comfort, not necessity? Which relationships am I tolerating because I fear loneliness? Which dreams have I buried because I'm afraid of failing? When you bring these truths into conscious awareness, they lose their power over you. But this is only step 1. The real transformation begins when you start acting against the old scripts, even when it feels uncomfortable. Part 3. Action over emotion. Rewiring your identity through behavior. Jordan Peterson emphasizes that you don't think your way into a new identity. You act your way into one. The human brain is wired to protect you from perceived danger, even if that danger is simply the discomfort of change. But every time you take a small action that contradicts your old patterns, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. For example, if you've always been the one who avoids conflict, practice having one honest conversation this week. If you've labeled yourself as lazy, commit to showing up for just 10 minutes of focused work daily. If you've been the perpetual people pleaser, say no once, even if it terrifies you. Change doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from a series of micro actions that compound over time. Each small victory rewires your brain, shifting your self-image from the person who can't to the person who does. Part 4. Shedding the skin of approval, releasing the fear of judgment. One of the greatest barriers to becoming your authentic self is the fear of what others will think. Peterson often reminds us that being agreeable is not a virtue when it comes at the cost of your own integrity. But let's be honest, it's terrifying to risk being disliked. especially if your self-worth has been tied to external validation for years. The harsh reality is this: some people are invested in the version of you that stays small, compliant, and predictable. When you begin to change, it threatens their own comfort zone. Here's what you must remember: not everyone is meant to stay in your life. The approval you're chasing often comes from people who don't even approve of themselves. You cannot become extraordinary while trying to be universally liked. Start small. Practice making decisions without seeking permission. Allow people to misunderstand you without feeling the need to over-explain. Freedom is not the absence of judgment. It's the refusal to be controlled by it. Part 5. Embracing voluntary responsibility. The antidote to chaos transformation is not just about letting go. It's about stepping up. Jordan Peterson emphasizes that life's meaning is found in bearing voluntary responsibility. It's not enough to shed your former self. You must replace that void with a higher purpose. Ask yourself, what problems in the world genuinely bother me? How can I take responsibility, even in small ways, to make things better? When you align your actions with a cause greater than your personal ego, you transcend the petty anxieties of self-doubt. Responsibility anchors you to reality, giving you a reason to push through discomfort. Whether it's being a better parent, pursuing a meaningful career, or simply being a source of kindness in a cynical world, responsibility is the forge where your true self is molded. Part 6. The inevitable grief of outgrowing your former self. Here's a truth that's rarely spoken about in the self-help world. Growth comes with grief. Letting go of your former self means mourning the friendships that won't survive your evolution, the comfort of routines that no longer align with your purpose, the identity that, while limiting, felt familiar and safe. It's okay to feel sadness as you outgrow your past. But remember, grief is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. Proof that you're alive, that you're evolving. Transformation is less about finding yourself and more about losing what you were never meant to be. Part 7. Practical steps to begin your personal metamorphosis. To bring all of this into actionable clarity, here are practical steps you can start applying today. Daily self-reflection, 10 minutes per day. Write down one behavior or thought pattern that doesn't align with who you want to become. Micro-bravery challenges each day. Do one small thing that contradicts your old identity. Speaking up in a meeting, asserting a boundary, trying something new. Detach from approval metrics. Limit your social media consumption and consciously post something authentic, even if it's not trendy or popular. Identify a responsibility project. Choose one area in your life: health, relationships, career, and commit to improving it, not for external validation, but as an act of self-respect. Curate your circle. Begin spending more time with people who challenge you to grow, even if it means reducing time with those who enable your stagnation. Accept the discomfort. Remind yourself daily that discomfort is a sign of growth. It's not a signal to retreat. Conclusion: you're not here to be who you were yesterday. Becoming who you truly are is not an act of discovery. It's an act of courage. It's standing in front of the mirror, stripping away every lie, every excuse, and every false narrative you've adopted to survive. Jordan Peterson's message is clear. Your potential is not a guarantee. It's an invitation to consciously shed the layers that no longer serve you. An invitation to carry the responsibility that gives life meaning. An invitation to embrace the discomfort that leads to freedom. Most people will never answer that call. They'll cling to their former selves because familiarity feels safer than freedom. But you have a choice. Every moment you hesitate, the life you're meant to live drifts further away. But every moment you act, no matter how small, you reclaim a piece of your true self. Final note: support the Awaken Mindset community. This message resonated with you? Then you're ready to take ownership of your life. I invite you to support Awaken Mindset. This channel is more than just words, it's a movement of people committed to living with integrity, purpose, and authenticity. By subscribing, sharing, and engaging with our content, you're not only empowering yourself, but also helping others break free from the chains of their former selves. The journey is difficult, but you're not alone. Together, we awaken.